Paul Thomas Anderson's film, There Will Be Blood, documents the rise and fall of the sociopathic self-made oil tycoon, Daniel Plainview, as he cleverly manipulates a small, religious town and those around him in order to amass great wealth. Following a period of his life over the course of around 30 years, the film focuses primarily on his relationships with H.W., his adopted son, Eli, a charismatic yet conflicted faith healer, and Henry, a man who claims to be Daniel's long-lost half-brother. The major conflict of the film revolves around Daniel's livid hatred of Eli and his intense desire to earn enough money to escape from contact with the rest of humanity.
I hate most people.
Through frequent religious motifs, a dissonant musical score, and striking cinematography, Anderson crafts a film that is epic in its scope and in its depiction of the darkness that humanity is capable of. The film begins by introducing the character of Daniel as an ambitious prospector who first discovers silver and then proceeds to establish a small oil company. During a drilling accident, a worker's son, H.W., is orphaned, and Daniel decides to adopt the young boy in order to use him as a prop to fabricate a family image for his business dealings. 9 years later, Daniel and H.W. receive a tip from a mysterious stranger, Paul,
Sunday Ranch is what you're looking for.
and travel to Little Boston, California. After discovering massive oil deposits, they purchase the surrounding land and prepare to drill. Soon, however, Daniel comes to odds with Eli, a young, aspiring pastor, who asks Daniel to let him bless the newly constructed oil well. Rather than grant Eli's wish, Daniel slights him by allowing Eli's sister to bless the well in his place. This action builds tension and animosity between the two men, thus introducing the major conflict of the film and concluding the first act. Daniel's greed and callous nature are further exposed through the complications that arise in the second act. An initial complication occurs as a gas blowout at a well leaves H.W. permanently deaf. Instead of tending to his son, Daniel rushes to stop the rapid discharge of his precious oil. After this calamity, the tension between Eli and Daniel breaks as Daniel furiously beats Eli after the young man demands the money that Daniel has promised his family. As H.W. becomes less useful to his father through complications arising from his deafness, a man named Henry, claiming to be Daniel's brother, arrives looking for work. Seizing the opportunity, Daniel sends H.W. away to boarding school and replaces him with Henry, maintaining the appearance of his family business. As the two prospect the necessary land for an oil pipeline, Daniel discovers that Henry is posing as his brother, who in reality died of tuberculosis. Daniel proceeds to murder the imposter, which puts him in his weakest and most vulnerable position in the film, as the construction of his oil pipeline is jeopardized and he is forced to be baptized by Eli. The baptism serves as the film's reversal, in which Daniel's dominance over Eli is threatened through his humiliation in front of the congregation. The act concludes with the successful completion of the pipeline, followed by the return of H.W. and Eli's departure from Buffalo Springs on a mission. The third act begins with a time jump to 1927. Daniel has constructed a mansion where he lives alone as an alcoholic recluse. H.W. visits his father to tell him that he plans to travel to Mexico with his wife in order to start his own oil business, a choice that infuriates Daniel and causes him to completely sever his only emotional relationship with another human. After this heated confrontation, the film reaches its climax as Eli returns and begs Daniel to buy the Bandy Tract, which he believes is full of oil. Daniel takes this opportunity to reverse the previous humiliation that Eli brought him during his baptism.
I drink your milkshake!
Daniel then reveals that his land is actually worthless, and proceeds to savagely murder the young pastor, which consummates his absolute domination over Eli, and thus resolves the conflict between the two men.
The film's gripping narrative would be far less impactful without the stylistic richness that Anderson creates through use of evocative cinematography, a fire motif, a fantastic modern musical score, and meaningful religious references. Religion plays a significant literal role throughout the film, entering the narrative through Daniel's relationship with Eli. However, it also carries a symbolic importance, as demonstrated in scenes involving Daniel's interactions with oil that present his relationship with the black liquid as one of worship and reverence. It acts as his literal salvation, due to its ability to provide him with enough money to live life as he wishes, isolated from humanity. In the early stages of the film, a reference is made as Daniel first discovers oil, raising his oil-soaked hand to the heavens in a highly spiritual manner. Another miner proceeds to anoint his son on the forehead with the oil, an action that directly mirrors a traditional baptism. Later, Daniel and H.W. eventually make the trek towards the Sunday Family Ranch, a reference to the Sabbath. And during this walk, the placement of Daniel's gear on his back looks like the cross, which alludes to the burden of Christ as Daniel is forced to carry his personal burden of discovering oil. A second allusion to baptism occurs as a gas explosion causes the oil to erupt from the ground, soaking Daniel in the liquid as he attempts to save his son. These religious references both highlight the underlying theme of religion in the film and develop Daniel's obsessive relationship with oil. Fire also serves as one of the film's key motifs. During scenes of Daniel's moral bankruptcy and sinful actions, characters are repeatedly filmed in orange, flickering light generated from natural flame sources, referencing the flames of hell. It first appears as Daniel explains to HW that he is lying to the Sunday family about his true intentions to purchase their land for its oil, rather than its delicious quail,
Give them quail prizes.
in order to get a lower price. The motif occurs once again as Daniel stares up into the fiery eruption of his oil well, the hellish light from its flames glinting in his eyes, representing his greed for oil and his disregard for his son, who has recently been injured. Later, Daniel and his brother are lit by a fire in their cabin as Daniel reveals his sociopathy through his hatred towards humanity and his desire to build a mansion that will allow him to isolate himself from interaction with others. Finally, orange flames from a campfire light one of Daniel's most violent scenes, in which he kills the man posing as his brother. Here, its presence is clearly attributed to a sin of murder. Together, this recurring use of orange flickering light from fire emphasizes Daniel's immorality due to the dramatic effect of its low-key lighting and its function as an allusion to the fires of hell. Throughout the film, stunning cinematography is utilized in order to accurately depict the vastness and stark emptiness of the natural setting. The majority of the film takes place in the small town of Little Boston, California, which is surrounded by hundreds of miles of empty terrain. Anderson presents this harsh landscape through several extreme long shots, which often emphasize how small the characters are relative to the setting and the apparent endlessness of the landscape. This extremely desolate location plays a key role in the film, as its barren quality deepens the intensity of Daniel's attempt to conquer the wild land through his search for oil. The emphasis on the landscape also creates a bleak tone, a choice that is emphasized through the film's opening extreme long shot of a lifeless desert canyon. Additionally, these shots contribute to the complexity of the mise-en-scène and thus enhance the overall quality of the imagery presented to the viewer. In this film, sparse but meaningful music is used to influence the tone of key scenes, create tension, or represent certain emotions through creative and evocative use of rhythm and dissonance. Music first appears in the film at its very beginning in the form of a dissonant swell of strings, which elicits a sense of unease and discomfort in the audience, feelings that will accompany them for the majority of the film. A second important usage of music occurs as Daniel's oil well in Little Boston erupts.
Open the door!
This clacking, repetitive instrumental creates tension and unease through its arrestingly unusual rhythms. The piece does not end until the eruption is finally stopped. Later, dissonant, high-pitched strings without driving rhythm play in the soundtrack after Daniel finds out that his brother Henry is a fraud. Their buzzing, droning tones symbolize how this knowledge eats away at Daniel, his rage buzzing away until he finally kills the imposter. As he looks through his dead brother's diary after the event, minor harmonies occur, breaking the dissonance and symbolizing an emotional shift to Daniel's remorse over his actions and the past death of his true brother. The final notable use of music occurs at the film's end, after Daniel has murdered Eli.
I'm finished.
The use of this peppy, major violin concerto is highly ironic, due to its clash with the previous scene of brutality. Despite the opposing emotions that the piece brings to the audience, its use here actually mirrors Daniel's elation over his final triumph over Eli. In its entirety, There Will Be Blood is a masterpiece of finely crafted narrative and stylistic finesse. It profoundly affects the audience through its depiction of Daniel's descent into madness and exploration of the incredible darkness that humanity is capable of.